Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Jeremy Corbyn was cheered by Labour MPs as he took on Theresa May over grammar schools at PMQs yesterday. But in case you'd forgotten, he's still fighting a leadership contest against Owen Smith, a challenger backed by the majority of the Parliamentary Labour Party. They held the final hustings of the contest last night on Sky News, and the exchanges were fairly tough. Let's have a look.
I regret the fact that some colleagues, including Owen, decided to resign from the shadow cabinet, hence we're having this leadership contest. I simply say to them, once this leadership contest is over, let's come together. Let's come together and campaign on all those issues.
How many seats do we need to win to beat the
You know
Tories?
as well as I do, we need to win at least 90.
No, we don't. We need to win 106, Jeremy. 106.
Depends on the
90.
new boundaries.
See, now, I worry that the leader of the Labour Party doesn't know how many seats we need to win from the Tories.
I'm just so angry at what the rest of the Labour Party are doing to Jeremy Corbyn. Yeah. I think they're cowards, they're old Blairites. Everybody hates Tony Blair.
Well, we're joined now by the journalist Rachel Shabi. She's a supporter of Jeremy Corbyn, and Margaret Hodge, of course, is still with us. She's backing Owen Smith. How did Owen Smith do you think?
Well, I have to be absolutely honest. I didn't watch the programme last night.
How's he doing overall, then?
Oh, overall, I think he's doing extremely well. I think he's got better. And I think the most important thing is there is a real distinction between the two of them. Owen Smith understands that what the Labour Party was founded for was to actually gain power and form government. It was never founded as a pressure group. There are plenty of other ways that Rachel and others can spend their time up in other avenues rather than being members of a pressure group.
What do you say to that? How do you think Jeremy Corbyn did?
Well, I think that both of the candidates in the leadership contest obviously understand that they want to be leaders of the party in order to get into power, because what would be the point otherwise? People want to put their politics into power. Jeremy Corbyn wants and needs to be in power to affect all the kind of policy changes and transformations that he wants to bring about and that have caused over 500,000 members
so not
to support
not to
his
be in a
party.
pressure group, as Margaret Hodge said.
Clearly not a pressure group. Clearly a party that is in Parliament and wants to be in power.
Well, I think the interesting thing is, were that the case, and I'm delighted to hear Rachel say that, were that the case, he wouldn't be listening to what is a relatively small bunch of people, be it,
Are you talking about Momentum, the grassroots organisation?
In the party. He would be listening to the 9 million people who voted Labour in my constituency at the last election. He'd be actually relating to their concerns, and he'd be concerned with increasing the number of people who vote Labour next time. If you look at every opinion poll, if you look at every analysis that has been done of his actual personal credibility, we are doing worse than we have ever done, probably in our entire history.
What do you say to that, Rachel Shabi? You know the poll ratings are disastrous at the moment for whatever reason. They're the worst ever for a leader of the opposition at this point. Jeremy Corbyn's personal ratings are 64 points behind Theresa May. Can Labour really win a general election from that point?
Well, I mean, I think the most important thing to say is that the Labour Party has got problems and is in crisis, and that has nothing to do with who the leader is.
Really? It has nothing to do with Jeremy Corbyn?
The Labour Party has struggled in elections. It has been hemorrhaging voters, regardless of who the leader is. The Labour Party.
How long are you taking that back for?
The Labour Party has
Tony
lost.
Blair won 3 elections.
Tony
Blair won 3 elections in a row.
The Labour Party.
We were in government for 13 years.
Yes, the Labour Party has been hemorrhaging.
We weren't bad at elections.
Let Rachel finish. So you're saying since Ed Miliband?
I'm saying that the Labour Party is in crisis, and that would be the case whoever was the leader. And the truth of the matter is that neither of us knows how Jeremy Corbyn would perform, because we haven't seen what he could do. We haven't seen what he could do with a united party, with all the talents and capabilities of MPs like you behind him.
Right.
We haven't seen what he could do with 500,000 people supporting him in the party, the biggest membership of any party across Europe. When that group of people is galvanised and put into effect in canvasses and campaigns and gets out and talks to people on the streets, we don't know what the result
Well, let me
will be.
talk to people on the streets all the time.
For the people who believe in his
I talk to people all the time,
and who
Rachel,
want
in my own
change,
constituency. I don't do street in election.
Well, but hang on, it's clear that Jeremy Corbyn is going to win the leadership
Not
election.
necessarily.
Well,
That's
let's assume he has won it.
Not necessarily.
If he does, is it time for MPs, Labour MPs, who had no confidence in him before, to unite behind him?
I think it's a very difficult. I think every member of Parliament will have to make their own decision. I'm afraid I'm in that camp that believes that Jeremy Corbyn, with his policies, I've known. This is not in any way personal. I've known and liked Jeremy personally. I think it's the camp from which he comes. I've known them since the 80s. Joe, probably when you were first in television, and I was active in politics. And their interest, I'm afraid, Rachel, is not in gaining power. Their interest actually is in destroying capitalism and trying to overthrow the current system. That's where they come from. And therefore, I shall always be in their camp of trying to secure a leadership in Parliament that actually brings it. Can I just say one other thing? If you've lost the support of over 80% of your members of Parliament from all wings of the party, if all of them actually choose to resign, I think actually the grown-up thing to do, the thing with integrity to do, is to walk away and allow the party and Parliament to then have a leader that they can support.
It's clear he's not doing that, and he hasn't done that up until now. In terms of unity, do you think that cause was helped by a leak of a list of Labour MPs who've been disloyal to Jeremy Corbyn, was then sort of let out by a member of the team? Will that help unify the Parliamentary Labour Party?
I do want to answer that question. It's really important, but I do just want to respond to that point. Destroy capitalism is quite a label to put on people whose politics are actually in line with a lot of popular thinking when it comes to things like investment in public infrastructure, when it comes to renationalisation of public services, when it comes to fairer taxation, reducing inequality, supporting the welfare state. I think those policies are actually quite reasonable and the sort of policies that will resonate for people who struggle every day as a result of the politics imposed by this current government.
But they haven't resonated so far. But I'll answer the question about this list of Labour MPs.
This was a mistake. It was devastating to see that happen, especially on the same day that we saw the Labour Party, how brilliant and effective an opposition it could be when it was united over a cause and with its leader. It was a mistake. It's important to remember that the campaign is very separate from the leadership office. The two have nothing to do with each other. And while the campaign, of course, it's trying to fight a leadership battle, so it's going to have that mentality about it. The leadership office and his team are not about battle anymore. They're actually about unity and reconciliation. We can see that from the way...
Really, there's no crossover at all between the two?
Joe,
as I understand it, the two are fairly intact, and now we can see the wisdom of it, because it's important for the Labour Party leadership to now be talking about unity.
Doesn't it undermine Jeremy Corbyn's whole argument about a kinder, gentler politics and actually trying to unify and reach out to people? That did the exact opposite.
I think it was a mistake, and I think the campaign team very swiftly realised the mistake and apologised for it. I do think Jeremy Corbyn's team is now talking very much about unity. We saw him talking about unity last night in the debate with Owen Smith. That's where the party needs to be thinking right now.
What about, then, the performance of Jeremy Corbyn at PMQs? It was his best PMQs.
Oh, yeah,
he won
undoubtedly.
PMQs. And actually there were lots of Labour MPs who don't support Jeremy Corbyn tweeting high praise for that performance yesterday. If he were to perform in that way on issues that unify the parliamentary party, could there be any cause for the two sides coming together?
Well, I think where there's a lot of underlying values and policies on which probably Rachel and I agree, and I agree with her it's a mistake. I think what is so interesting, Rachel, is if you're the leader of a party, you're the leader of the parliamentary party as well as other parts of the party. And if you have every grouping has dissenters, every grouping has people who have a different view. As the leader, it's your job actually to, if somebody disagrees, you bring them in. You don't publicly admonish them. You don't publicly...
Which he didn't do.
Which the lists do.
Which he didn't do.
Well, no, hang on.
Which he has never done.
But to be absolutely honest, Rachel, I don't make this distinction.
Okay.
The leader is the leader of the leader's office.
Because we need to be talking about unity.
No, the leader is the leader's office. He has to be responsible for all those working for him. He's also the candidate. He has to be responsible for the team that working him. To say it's somebody else's fault, it's not me, I'm really the Mr. Nice Guy here, I just don't buy that. It's absolutely central to the whole of the way in which that the system operates. I'm afraid under Jeremy Corbyn, that's how it works.
But whatever you think about it, obviously we're going to disagree about that. I do separate the two, and I do think he's been talking about unity. But regardless, it doesn't matter. What matters now is getting the party to unite. It's more a question of how that's going to come about.
Just very briefly, there was a little bit of a discussion between Owen Smith and Jeremy Corbyn about how many seats Labour would need to win the next election. We can argue about the numbers another time. But as it stands, in order to have a majority of one, Labour actually needs to win a seat like Basingstoke with a Tory majority of 10,000, and it's never had a Labour MP. Do you think that's possible under Jeremy Corbyn?
I think that we are looking at a country that post-Brexit feels very worried, very insecure. We have the highest level of inequality. We have people worrying daily about how they're going to make it from week to week, about how they're going to feed
Sure, but can they win a seat like Basingstoke?
So, with 500,000 people behind Labour, canvassing, campaigning, engaging on the streets, discussing those issues, maybe they can be persuaded. We don't know.
All right. Rachel Shabi, thank you.